Hey everybody, it's Sunday, June 22nd, 2014. Hope you're having a great day. And today we're talking to Carl Kozak, where I met on a BigCommerce webinar recently where we had a Q&A panel with some of the customers about fulfillment, kind of things of that sort. So he was one of the panelists and I got to meet him on Skype afterwards, and here's the conversation we had about the Kickstarter project he launched and his business called Core Essentials. Now, if you look at the image of this episode, I gotta say, he kind of looks like Jack Bauer from 24. So if you're a big fan of that show, you know last week's episode was pretty crazy. Right now it's in season 9 called Live Another Day in London. I won't give away any spoilers, but if you haven't seen it yet, it's probably one of the best shows I think in history. But I'll stop on this tangent before we get off track here. And before we start, I want to share a productivity trick I've incorporated lately from Tim Ferriss. There was one podcast he had, I think episode 13, about how he prioritizes his day. And just real quick to just summarize it, what he does is every morning when you wake up, you don't turn on your computer, you don't check email, and what you do is you take a post-it note with you somewhere, you make a tea, you make a coffee, you sit down, and you write down 3 to 5 things that are making you anxious or nervous for the day. So these are often tasks that you put off on a day-to-day basis, week to week, things that you should be doing, but you haven't been doing them, maybe because they make you feel uncomfortable or they're kind of difficult things to do. And once you have 3 to 5 things down on a list, the thing to ask yourself is, does completing any of these tasks make the other ones easier or irrelevant? So does completing one task make the others easier or irrelevant? And we're looking for a force multiplier effect from a list of these 5 things. So if you're really honest with yourself, you should narrow this down to 2 or 3 and maybe 1. And then what you do for the rest of the day is you just focus 2 to 3 hours where you just focus on this thing only and you ignore everything else. So for example, I do this over breakfast. I started doing this only a few days ago. So I take a post-it note with me to this breakfast place at a local Vietnamese joint, and where I have some rice, some side dishes. And so I leave my phone at the house. I just sit there for about 5 to 6 minutes while they're making the food. I write things down, and then as I think things through, it kind of helps me prioritize everything throughout the day. So for most guys in the e-commerce space, it'll be, how can I increase my sales? And what you might come up with is usual things like tactical stuff, like tweaking headlines, button colors, things like that. Whereas you compare it to, say, calling retailers or doing high friction outreach to potential press, bloggers, or things of that nature, right? There's a different kind of impact those different actions have. And what you want to do is you want to focus on the high friction ones that really make you uncomfortable and are the ones that, are really more scalable, I guess, in some ways too. So basically that's the summary of it. Check out Tim Ferriss's podcast, episode 13, if you want more information on that. And with that being said, let's just get on with this week's show. Don't deliver a product, deliver an experience. You're listening to the Build My Online Store podcast, and I'm your host, Terry Lin. We're here to talk about running an online store and building a strong e-commerce brand to take your online store to the next level. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check us out at buildmyonlinestore.com. Let's get on with the show. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Today I've got Carl over at Core Essentials, where we're going to talk about his company. So Carl, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, hey, first, Terry, thanks for having me on the show. I have a company called Core Essentials, and my partners and I, and we manufacture accessories. Primarily right now, our first product is trackline belts. It is a very kind of unique new belt with a track on the back of the belt. And although this isn't necessarily a new product in Asia, we brought it to America and redesigned the buckles using a spring-loaded caliper in the back and created some kind of classically unique designs for men.
I've had one of these belts before, but for those of us who may not know what's a trackline belt, how would you explain it to them?
Well, I mean, it's got the track on the back is a kind of a nylon plastic track that has small notches in it, and it's every quarter of an inch. And we've got about 40 of these. So instead of 5 holes in your belt that are 1 inch apart, you've got these 40 sizing positions about a quarter of an inch apart. So you get this really nice, snug, perfect feeling fit. So throughout the day, as your waist size fluctuates, you eat too much for lunch, you don't eat, you take a walk, you work out, you sit at your desk. So throughout the day, your waist is just slightly fluctuating, and this belt kind of adjusts easily with you, and it makes you feel, it's just like a more comfortable fit.
Nice. So instead of having to change the holes on my belt, I just kind of slide it back and forth. And
yeah, the belt just slides right through the buckle and clicks almost like a zip tie, I think, and right to your exact waist size each time you put it on.
And so before we started the call, we were talking about how you worked in kind of the entertainment industry. So how did you end up from there to making belts?
I was in the movie business for a number of years, I think 15 years or so almost. And I had near the end, a 3D camera company, and I was designing 3D camera systems. And we were going to be making some of them in China. it just made sense. But the 3D business, the 3D industry has kind of gone downhill, if you haven't noticed, in the last 2 or 3 years. It was really hot at one time. So anyway, one of my partners is located in Xiamen, and he came over, and during one meeting, he showed me a belt that he had on. And I thought it was really neat and kind of cool. I love the functionality of it, but I just thought the buckle was really, well, it wasn't an American type design. It had more of an Asian, front to it. And I thought, well, it might not be popular with everybody here, but it's not bad. But the back was really bulky and had too much extra metal and used a large magnet system to control it. And so I just thought it looked kind of gimmicky. So I said, well, if I could redesign the buckle and make the buckle sleeker, slimmer, and function better, I think that would be popular. I think that's why it hasn't really hadn't caught on yet.
I see. And so what did it take to go from this is a cool thing to change, to actually bring out a new design, looking for like suppliers and stuff?
I got lucky, I think, by having my partner living in China. That was a big help. He's an American guy, so he understands the market. He understands a business, and he's usually one step ahead of me. And I think that could be really helpful. So our conversations, if I had to deal with the factory direct and there was a language barrier and a culture barrier, I think that would have slowed everything down. But he comes back several times a year. We Skype quite a bit, and it helped us to source the various factories, the materials. By the way, we use top grain or full grain leather, the top of the cow's hide, the best quality leather available. We're able to use solid stainless steel for the buckle. So we kind of go above and beyond with the quality and try to make a really nice product. And he's there to QC everything and quality check it all before it leaves.
Yeah. So what did the first few samples look like? Or how long did the process take before you finally had something that you could present to the market?
I'd say it took about a year. It was a good year or so, maybe almost a year and a half. And we went through several iterations. I had a designer over here and an engineer that I'd worked with for the other 3D camera systems, several guys. So we kind of took the belt apart, the current buckle, and decided that we had to throw out the whole mechanism. It just wasn't going to work for what we wanted to do. It was just still going to be too bulky. So we just decided to use a much slimmer spring-loaded caliper. And so it took a number of iterations, a number of prototypes going back and forth, FedExing stuff, back and forth till we finally got it right. And even now, after the first Kickstarter campaign, we still, made another iteration and tweaked some things to make it better.
Yeah, gotcha. Do you find belts are more easier designed than 3D cameras?
Yeah, although it's surprisingly interesting how complicated the buckle was. I mean, and partially because we threw everything else out and started with something fresh. So the cameras were the same way, though. The camera systems are kind of the same thing. We had to field test stuff. We did a lot of shooting in 3D, a lot of documentaries. We shot one of India's largest 3D films for them with our camera systems. So there were some parallels. There were definitely some parallels. But that's a very, very niche kind of product, the 3D camera systems, whereas the belts are obviously a very broad product. I think every time I sell one of these, people always say the same thing. I don't wear my other belt anymore. This is the best belt I've ever had.
You mentioned you guys had a Kickstarter, and I just kind of Googled you guys very well, over 300,000. So what was the story like before Kickstarter? Or how did you decide to go on this platform?
Boy, I sure wish they had this platform available when I was younger. I mean, I don't even remember who told me about it, but when I heard about it and did some research, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. You're really kind of pre-selling something. So, and it gives people a chance to really, it's kind of a market test at the same time, because we went to market with 4 buckles. I thought one would be the most popular, and boy, was I wrong. There was another one that was more popular by far, and the one I thought was going to be most popular was the least popular. So I thought this is really a great way to test. To market test products as well when you're launching them.
Yeah, and before you make 2,000 at a time and figure out that's the one people don't want.
Isn't that what people do usually? I mean, that's the normal way you did it. You went out and you made a couple thousand or something because you couldn't make 10 of them. You had to, once you spark up the machines, the factory, you might as well make 1,000 of them or something. So then all of a sudden you're stuck with this inventory.
Yeah. So what did the lead up to Kickstarter look like? Because I know a lot of people now, it's very scientific. You line up your press beforehand, you have a big launch. But was this the same path you went down, or what did it look like when you had a Kickstarter?
The first one was a bit different because I had no idea what to expect. But since I came from the movie business, I was thought, oh, great, I can put a video together, some music, credits, whatever. I didn't want to go too overboard with the video, though. I still wanted to keep it relatively simple because we're not a big corporation. We don't really want to look like a big corporation. That's not who we are. So, we did that. You put your page together. I did spend a good amount of time working out a spreadsheet of all the costs involved because I think it was very important to start with, okay, what's this product going to cost us? Before we start pricing it, what's the cost of goods, right? What's all our overhead? What's our shipping or sales tax? There were several things that were left out on Kickstarter's part, and they don't really mention or talk about. And there's only limited control because Amazon Payments does all the money collecting. But there's a lot of organizing. You want to make sure you got all your costs down, all your ducks in a row, your product's really ready to go. There's a lot of photography involved. And then there's writing some good copy and using some great graphics, right?
And did you write all the copy yourself, or did you have someone hired to do it? Or
No, I did all the copy myself. I just did all the copy, and my wife did some of the graphics. I went around first and took pictures of friends of mine in the belt, and then I realized why you don't use your friends, why you use models. So I told somebody, I said, well, I'm trying to get, like a kind of a regular guy look. And then I realized, oh, okay, that's why people don't do regular guy looks, because people just generally, most of us don't photograph all that well, And with Kickstarter, it's supposed to be a bit homespun in a way. I mean, you are starting out, right? If you were a big corporation and you had a big firm doing all that, you probably wouldn't need the money.
Cool. So what was the angle on your Kickstarter, like with the story? Because most videos tend to have a really compelling story. What was your thoughts for yours?
2 or 3 months before I had seen the belt, my wife had bought me a belt for my birthday, and it was a real nice belt she bought over it from Nordstrom's. And I put the thing on, and it just didn't quite fit right. So I probably should have just taken it back and got a different size. I think she didn't realize that I had lost a little weight, a few pounds. So she was used to buying like one size bigger. Anyway, so I put a hole in it, and it just didn't go through the leather very well. It just didn't look good. It looked bad. It looked like I had made the hole. It looked like I made it primitively. So I was like, oh, great. And it was like $100 and something belt. So I kind of felt like I ruined the belt. I had to like hide it because I did the hole it turned out to be like at an angle or something. It was kind of partially torn. So anyway, that kind of was even more motivation, because then when I saw the belt, it made me thinking, I was in that kind of mind frame like, oh, hey, this is great. You don't even need holes. Who wants holes anyway?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes holes, like you're in the middle of 2 holes.
Yes.
And you're like, oh God, do I use the bigger one or the smaller one?
Yeah, a lot of people are, when they go to get the belt size, they're in between size. They're not a 32, 34, and they're not a 34, 30, or 36, 38 or something. They're kind of in between, So this thing has a 10-inch track. So when you cut it, everybody gets the same size belt, and you cut it to get it in your size range. So once you get down there, you have about 5 inches each direction.
Yeah. So manufacturing wise, it makes it a lot more straightforward too, rather than having these different sizes.
Exactly. For retailers, it's a lot less. They don't have to carry as much inventory. They can carry a handful of belts. They don't need every size. They just need one size.
Awesome. All right. So let's move on to after the Kickstarter. So after the Kickstarter, was it hard to fulfill these orders? Because I know some of them are very demanding. What did your timeline look like after you got the funding?
It was. I mean, it was a bit more than I expected. There were some more delays than I had anticipated. You don't get paid right away. It takes about close to 10 days to 14 days to get paid from Amazon Payments. Then you kind of go into this where you put a down payment down on the deposit on the order. Then the factory gets all the materials together and they start. So it takes a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks before anything really even gets started. I think some people from Kickstarter might be under the impression that, the next day you're starting to make their product. So it is a bit, the first time around we had over 4,000 customers. We had to really keep them abreast of what was going on with the updates, make sure everybody's addresses and orders were correct. And then once we sent the order off to China, we were involved in doing other things for the company, but we had to just keep everybody abreast of it. And then when the order came in, we just kind of all hands on deck shipping. I think it was about 3 weeks worth of shipping, nonstop.
Yeah, I think most people don't understand how long physical products takes to make. Like just getting it sampled, made, and then like shipped from wherever to the US, like customs, bill of landing, crates, all that stuff. Like, I think most people have no idea, and they think it's like, oh yeah, I got the money. I actually get it in like a week, just like going to the mall and buying something.
Right, and you gotta, they go by boat, because you're not going to pay for air. It's just too expensive. So you go by boat. A boat takes 2 or 3 weeks. Then both orders that we've had are recent orders, and the one from Kickstarter got pulled aside for customs check, for a double check. So then you have to pay for the customs check. You pay for it. So if they decide to inspect you, they charge you like $150 or something like that. They have to take it over and put it in a different warehouse. It takes like another week.
Wow. Is that by per crate, or how do they charge you? Is it by like weight or just by one time?
I'm not really sure. I couldn't. I'm sorry. I can't. I don't remember. But I was just told there was going to be a charge that I had to pay for it, and I had to pay for the drop off to their warehouse. It was like a total of close to $200, and you got to wait, to hold you up another week while they inspect it. And they have the right to do it, and you have to pay for it. Otherwise, you don't get it.
Yeah, I had a friend who had this happen to him in Thailand. I think he was making like leather jackets, and so his customs wanted to tax him sending it out, And he was like, "Oh, it's $150 I saw on your website, but we're gonna tax you 50%." And so he basically wanted him to like give up the goods because he already tried it on. It was like a return shipment, and he's like, "Yeah, if you don't want it, if you want it to go up, we need to tax you again." And this guy
Wow.
just like, "Oh,
Oh,
this is
geez. Yeah.
weird." Yeah, I guess like Southeast Asia, like kind of poorer countries, are a little more corrupt, but it's kind of infuriating sometimes. Like I heard the U.S. is sort of pretty straightforward compared to like most places. Like it's really quick. I mean, maybe you get pulled aside, but as far as like the process goes, like 1 week is like really short. Like I got something held here in Vietnam for like 4 weeks, and I had to send it back. It took like another 2 weeks, and it was about to like shoot someone.
Well, I guess I should be thankful. It was just like a week, and it was this extra week or something. But I was like, wow, you got to wait an extra week, and you got to pay for their fee to inspect.
Yeah, and I think these things you don't expect it. Like starting out, you're like, what? Like customs can just do this? I can just have my stuff pulled aside and like.
Right.
Yeah, at first it's almost like infuriating when you.
Right, huh? What are you going to do? What?
All right, so let's move on a little bit more. So, if we look at your business now, kind of the sales breakdown, is most of this coming from online or wholesalers, or what does the breakdown look like? Say if we had to like assign percentages to kind of each channel for you.
Oh, I'd say right now 90% or more is coming from online direct sales. But that's because we just really started to go after retail stores just recently, and we are doing that now. And we are going to be repped. We're repped by several outside sales brokers who are handling our product along with other products, but who are starting to pick up our product.
Gotcha. And I guess you pay them by commission, or how does
Yes.
that work out?
You pay them by commission.
Interesting.
Yes.
All right, cool. And so, say like 2 years from now, are you hoping like wholesale gets bigger? Because I think most people still shop for things.
I mean, I think it really helps to see this belt because some people would say, hey, that's a lot for a belt. You know what I mean? And I think that once people see it, because the reaction we got from the first Kickstarter campaign was almost funny. It was so positive. I mean, everybody was so over the top excited and happy about their belt. It felt so strongly about it. I don't know, 30, 40% of the people came back to buy another belt and just loved it. So I think it's really something you have to see. I think that helps a lot. We can't show you all the quality that goes into it.
Yeah, I'm on your website now. I think the price point's around like $70
Yes.
for one, which it's not that bad though. I mean,
no, and it's really a great belt. I mean, like I said, we have competitive. There's competitors that they're half the price, but we bought the competitors' belts and they're half the quality. I mean, they're really pretty crappy. Wow, it's really really bad, and the leather quality is like bottom basement barrel. That's just the bottom, and you're like, wow, okay. So that's what we find with our competitors. We are the best quality among any kind of track type belt.
Yeah, so since you say the leather, let's just give everyone an idea. Like when you say the leather on the belt's bad, what happens after a long time? Like what should people be aware of if it's like...
Well, some of the competitors' belts are made with what's called action leather, which is small pieces of leather that are glued together and then they're sanded down and they usually put like a film over them. The belt just kind of cracks, dries out, splits, never really fits to your body as well as it could. It starts to look like hell after a short period of time, after 6 months or a year. Our belts are somebody was asking me recently, can I get your top grain belts in a size 55 or 60? And I said, unfortunately, you can't because the cow is not that long. Our belts are literally cut from the cow's skin, the top layer. And that's what it is. It's the top. It's called top grain or full grain leather. What happens is our leather really wears nicely. It actually starts to conform to your waist, your personal waist size. And over time, it kind of develops a little bit of patina and actually looks better. So it actually can improve with age.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize like real leather comes from a cowhide and the way it's processed. Like it's not like a leather couch that's like super big probably isn't real because there's cows just don't come that big, right? So
right, exactly. Well, we get some interesting comments too. Somebody will say to me one time, someone said not too long ago, hey, there's something wrong with the belt. It has a certain ripple on it. It must be cheap leather. I want to take it back. We kind of laugh because we think, well, it's not cheap. It's just that the cow is not perfect.
yeah, it's like if you look at your skin, you probably had a paper cut here. When you're young, banged your leg somewhere, and like it leaves a scar, right? It's like that's what I tell people. It's the same thing. It's like your skin. If you had these cuts and it became a piece of leather, like that's what would happen.
That's exactly what happens. I mean, that's what happens with the cow. The cow is not perfect. He's going to have some little blemishes, and that's what you're going to see sometimes on the leather.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's move on into marketing a little bit. So, you had a successful Kickstarter. Most of your sales are coming from online. So how is the marketing plan working out for you? What are like the main channels that you're focusing on?
our main thrust this year was to do this Trackline 2.0 campaign, and then our next big thing on our marketing plan is to really get into a certain number of stores this year, retail outlets. So that's kind of there's some other smaller things, like we're trying to up our SEO game and some of our social media. That's our main gist, really, is retail stores.
Yeah. And do you think SEO people are searching for Trackline? Is there the search volume there? Or because I think this is kind of new, you were saying, for the U.S. market, right? So like, how would you?
I think so. I think it's a new thing. I mean, I think people have to almost hear about it or stumble upon it or something, because it's not. People aren't looking for belts without holes or something, by and large. So there's a lot of word of mouth, and we try to keep all of our Kickstarter people abreast of what we're doing.
Yeah, gotcha. And what's your rationale for kind of going offline into wholesalers or retailers rather than being a strict online business?
Well, it's a whole different thing. I mean, when you go into retail stores, there's a whole different set of rules, pricing, and just kind of different things. And we're trying to make them work together. That's part of what we've been, just kind of focused on lately, is getting those things to kind of sync up.
What's the one thing that's worked really well for you guys so far?
The best thing we've had is Kickstarter, without a doubt. I mean, that's the simple answer is Kickstarter.
Gotcha. And would you advise everyone that has an idea to go Kickstarter too, or?
No, I've seen a lot of things I thought just didn't work on Kickstarter. There's just been products and projects that I thought, that doesn't really seem like a Kickstarter project. I heard the other day that somebody said 46% of projects get funded on Kickstarter. That's pretty high, don't you think? That's almost half.
Yeah, I think it also depended on if it was like 10K or 15K. Like if you said 200K, it's probably a lot harder than getting 10K and then being funded and being overfunded. Like, kind of this like expectations game there too. Like I see you set I think 15,000 starting out around that, and then when you get 300, it looks so much better, right? Rather than saying, Well,
we always go low, yeah, because we think it's better to go low. I've seen people that go right to 75, and you're like, oh, okay, well, if you want to, but I mean, you're going to really lower your chances of kind of getting funded. And it looks better if you get, 500 times what you need. But 50% or close to 50% says to me that there's a lot of products. I mean, half of them are getting funded, but I mean, realistically, 50% of the projects on there don't make it in the long run as a business, probably aren't great ideas. I mean, you see some good ideas on Kickstarter, don't get me wrong, but I think half of them can't be that great.
Yeah, that's what happens. I was talking to my fulfillment center. They were saying how a lot of Kickstarter projects go there for the initial campaign, and then after that, they don't have a marketing plan, like a long-term sustainable strategy, and then it just kind of peters out. And I guess most people don't think about that, right? They think, I got 300K or 100K, and let's bang this out. And then I think a year or two later, you're like, oh gosh, do I want to keep doing this? I guess most people don't think that far ahead.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right. I think most people are just kind of that's the end of them,
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting about your Kickstarter, I saw you started out. Your initial goal was like 15,000, and with like say $50 a pledge, $60 a pledge. Like, did you had any idea it would go this far to like 300K, or why did you pick only 15,000?
I had no idea. I thought 15 was a decent number. I was like a real basic number if we really wanted to just kind of get started. I thought that would be a real baseline number. But my real goal, I think, for that was about 60,000. In other words, I put 15 as a real baseline, but I thought really what I'd like to get here is if I could just get 60,000, that would be ideal. But I won't put 60 because that's a big number, 60,000. And I've never done this before, and I just don't know if it's going to work at all, right? So I don't want to put myself out of the game before I get started. You can always refund the money. You can always cancel the project if you want. There's different ways to get out of it before they charge anyone. You could cancel, They don't charge people to the very end, so you can always just back out. So yeah, that was so my real goal was in my head was I'd really love to get to 60. I had no idea I would get to 300,000 plus. So it just told me that people really loved the belts and they thought it was a cool idea.
Gotcha. Very cool. And how long did it take to hit your goal of 15,000?
Day and a half. So we had a list of, blogs, review sites, PR stuff that we were ready to do, but we couldn't really launch it. We didn't really want to launch it until we launched the campaign. We didn't want to start advertising that we've got this and that going when there's nothing online. So we kind of stepped back, got everything ready, put the campaign up on a Sunday night. We wanted it to end on a Sunday night, so it kind of worked out. And then kind of went to bed, thought, all right, that's enough. We've worked on this thing for 2 months, 3 months. It's as good as we can get it for what we were doing. And woke up in the morning and we were, close to 10 grand. So I was like, wow, okay. And then it was just a constant, if you looked at our dashboard, our graph on the back end, it was just a steady climb. It was just a steady climb every day, almost 10,000 a day it averaged, obviously.
Nice. So one thing you mentioned the PR angle a little bit. So if I'm understanding this right, you had some bloggers review your product, but they all published it on the same day, right?
No, we had been published at different days. I mean, we immediately set out to, well, let's see what we can do, how we can fuel this and make this go further faster by getting some bloggers and review sites, men's fashion review sites to look at the product. But that's tough because, then you kind of get out there and you're like, oh, wow, these guys get bombarded with requests to review products every week, every day. And so what sets you apart? So you really have to kind of, be a squeaky wheel, and you got to make a lot of noise really fast because the clock's ticking. You only got 30 days. And now, by the time they get the sample, you got 20 days. So I don't think the blogs and the reviews did that much. I mean, most of our traffic and most of our sales came directly from Kickstarter. We were so popular within Kickstarter.
Oh, just within the ecosystem.
Yeah. So people sometimes say, what's the secret to your success? I said, we have a great product. We really have a fun product that the guys love.
Yeah, it's interesting because I talked to some fashion bloggers, and there was one guy that told me, most of them just don't get that much traffic. And I think it's true because if you look at their Facebook pages, like how many people are actually liking stuff and sharing it, like some of them it's like pretty abysmal. You have like 5,000 people and then it's like one like on an article. You're just like, come on. I'm not going to talk to this guy. I mean, not to be disrespectful, but it's probably just not the right fit, right? So.
Well, there's just so much noise out there that I think a lot of people, they go in, they think they're going to do this or do that, or people think they're going to pay attention to this blog or whatever, but you know how it is. You get busy, you get distracted. So, we were lucky. Our secret to our success was a great product. People that have to go out there that have a product and they have to take their family and friends and take everybody to task on backing them, supporting them, probably shouldn't even launch the product. It sounds harsh, but I'm just saying that doesn't prove anything. If you've had to pound your friends and your family and all your contacts to buy one, support you, what are you going to do when you have to go out there for real and your family's already bought one? Because they know you. But I mean, what are you going to do when it's all over and the dust settles and Kickstarter's done and now what do you do then? You have a product that just your family, they supported you out of pity or just because they wanted to support you and they wanted to help you out. And I understand that, but that just to be a harsh, kind of a realistic business person, that doesn't do you any good because in the real world, when you get out there, no one's going to buy the product or there's going to be, you're just not going to have enough sales to make it.
Yeah. So what are the signs then you'd say if something has legs, like kind of just intuitively based on what we're talking about right now?
If people buy it, people open their wallet and spend money to get it.
Yeah, especially people that you don't know, you've never seen. They're just
When I was a kid, I had a product that we called Neat Seat, and it sounds crazy, but it was a little gadget we came up with, and you put your foot on it, and it was sat next to the toilet. It was a little pedal, and you pushed down the pedal and it lifted the toilet seat up, so you didn't have to bend over and lift it and touch it with your fingers. And then when you were done going to the bathroom, when you were a guy standing there, you just let go, and it had an air cylinder, and it kind of came down real slow. We called it Neat Seat. So we fooled around with it and made some prototypes. But back then, this is like the late 80s, early 90s, we took it to the swap meet because we set up a booth that looked just like a bathroom stall at your house. And we saw how many people were willing to buy it because I kept saying if people are willing to purchase it, then we know we have something. If they don't, and they just kind of marvel at it and think it's a fun idea, but they're not willing to buy one, then what do you do?
Yeah, it's kind of like if your product is also a vitamin or an aspirin. I've heard someone say, like, is it nice to have or something that must have too? And I think the Neat Seat kind of sounded like a nice to have, right? It's not like a core problem.
No, it's not a core problem.
Unless you're like a crazy germaphobe or something.
Right.
Like
well, a lot of women were complaining that, at the time I always was thinking that women are always complaining about leaving the toilet seat up, and then they go and sit down on it. I guess women at night, especially at night, if they're living with their husband, significant other, whoever, they go in the bathroom at night to the bathroom, they accidentally sit on the, without the seat up. So
yeah, it's funny you bring this up because my old toilet in Taiwan solved this problem. Basically, it was one of those advanced Japanese ones that has like a water spray and like blow dryer and like seat. And basically, it would know when you stand in front of it, the seat would just come up because it has a sensor there. And then when you leave after 5 seconds, it automatically goes down.
That's great. Why don't they have them here? They should have those here.
Yeah, and even after you're done, you don't have to flush it because it knows when you walk away. Like the sensor knows that you're not there anymore, and then it just flushes itself. And you're like, "Wow, this is fucking awesome."
Oh, see, now there's another Asian product that could be here in the States because, you hear that kind of stuff, and people like a little bit of luxury. It's obviously not everybody wants it, but there's definitely going to be a market for something like that. I mean, without the toilet seat going up, guys tend to, a lot of times we pee on the seat accidentally. Women sit it. They're like, I'm sitting in that. That's what really irritates them.
Yeah. So how far would you also say, this is kind of off a tangent, that maybe your marketing message is off, maybe like your copy or the way you present it is wrong? Have you thought about that? Because I think I had a friend who had a campaign fail the first time, and then the next time he blew it out of the water. And it was really the same product, but I think the way he presented it was a little bit different. So, I mean, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that is important. I think, and that can be a little bit maddening because you never really know. I think that's the part where Kickstarter has this option when you're making your campaign up and you haven't launched it yet. You can send a private link out to your friends. I wouldn't recommend sending it to everybody. I would just send it to people whose opinion you respect and that they've got a good sense of maybe marketing and branding and that kind of stuff, and get their feedback. And, everybody has their own opinion. You kind of look for trends, though. Okay, it seems like everybody doesn't really like the video because I'm not getting my point across. Yeah, that is hard. That's tough because you just don't know. You're kind of second-guessing yourself a lot. You're like, okay, do people get what this product is? Do they see it? I always think, okay, they got about 5 seconds. They better understand the product in the first 5 to 10 seconds because they're gonna turn off the video. They're gonna move on. People don't have time, right? It's like, show me what it is, tease me, show me what it is really fast. Okay, so I tried to put the belt on there pretty quickly on the first campaign.
YouTube videos that say, here's how to do something, but then the author spends another 10 seconds saying, hey, thanks for watching the video. Here's how to do something. And it just drives me nuts. I know, I read the title.
Yes.
I clicked it, just get into it. Stop wasting my time.
Right. Yeah. You're kind of like, I got stuff to do. Just please stop the introduction. I've had several of those. They go on and on. We're glad you're joining us today. We do all these videos. You're like, oh my God, just go on. Just tell me what I need to know. Right.
Yeah. I think you've already lost me by like 5 seconds if you don't get to the point.
So I kind of think like that. I think people are impatient, and the people that aren't impatient, great, stick around and watch the rest of the 2 minutes. But in the first 10 seconds, I better be into the product. You better be grasping it already and understanding what makes it unique or different.
Yeah. Does Kickstarter have like video stats for you? Like how many people finish?
Yes, they do.
Watching the whole. So what does that look like for you guys? Like, do people make it through the whole 3 minutes or?
No, but it says, I was surprised. It says like 75 to 80% of people watch the whole video. That's pretty good, and it has how many views. You see a lot of people don't. But then again, the end of my video, it goes black at the end and it's got like repetitive credits. I'm thinking, okay, well, that might mean that just most of the people just didn't bother when the credits came on, they turned it off. That's fine. So some people kept watching, beyond that. So, wow.
Yeah, awesome. All right, very cool. So thanks again, Carl, for joining us today. I think that's all we got. So let us know where we can find you online and buy some belts.
Yes, you can go to Core Essentials, and that's Kore Essentials. Or you can just Google like Trackline belts. With Trackline, there's no C. It's just Trakline belts.
Awesome. All right, Carl, thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks for having me, Terry. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Build My Online Store podcast. If you want the show notes, make sure to check out the website at buildmyonlinestore.com. And if you got an e-commerce store, every 2 weeks I lead a live mastermind call with about 5 or 6 of the listeners in 2 separate groups where we work openly together and solve a business problem that you have. And we're all there to support each other. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, make sure to check us out at buildmyonlinestore.com/mastermind. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch up with you guys next week.